La 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 la. Nothing.
Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are Teach the Shoah, and this is Light from the Darkness, a ritual for Holocaust remembrance. If you have the book, we will be starting on page 2. We will be jumping around a little bit in the book, so we'll let you know where we're going to be at any given time. If you don't have the book, don't worry, it'll all be up on the screen for you to follow along. As with all Jewish ceremonies, this is a participatory event. Please join us in the readings and the rituals as much as you are able. This is also a conversation tonight. We'll specifically be inviting you to join us in that conversation in particular places in the evening. And we very much hope you will. You should also feel free to add your thoughts in the chat at any time. And we will stay on at the end for a short conversation for those who wish. And now.
We have been broken. Part of us will always be broken. We gather each precious shard and piece them together to create a new vessel that will hold our love and our pain. We find that we are somehow whole and broken at the same time. We discover glimmers of holiness in the cracks, for it is through these jagged windows that we see the paths to building a better world. There is more to a broken vessel than the hammer that shattered it. Read with me. Even when we are enveloped by the evil, we hold on to our humanity and our faith. We emerge as a Jewish people strengthened in our resolve to remain Jews. The thread of Jewish life was and still is strong.
These mismatched candlesticks remind us of the resilience that our ancestors have always shown in dark times. They made do with what they had. They never gave up their determination to hold on to their Judaism. We take inspiration from their resilience and from those who found the strength to stand when standing seemed impossible. If you have candles to light, please light them with us now. Please join me. We light these candles for the light that shines in the hearts of all who will fight against evil. For a single candle can both defy and define the darkness.
הגפרור שנשרף, והצית לבבות. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that slowly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the flame that like flickering hearts seem to vanish and die without shame. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame.
We begin our story in the light. We remember Not so long ago, many of our fathers and our mothers, our sisters and our brothers lived in the land of Europe. We were Jews of many different sorts. We were religious and secular. We lived in cities and in small towns. We lived in many countries across the world. We spoke many different languages. We were doctors and dressmakers, printers and poets, scientists and shopkeepers, weavers and welders. We were a warm family whose life followed a quiet, carefree routine. Our roots reached back generation upon generation, living there amidst friends, neighbors, and acquaintances. With this loving background, the years flowed peacefully, said Miriam Yahab of Poland. An ancient hatred, unashamed, was emerging from the shadows, but we did not recognize the approaching danger. We thought the world was evolving beyond such ignorance.
Woven through our ritual tonight, we will be hearing the story of Stefania Wylcynska and Janus Korczak, told to us by Lynne Feldman and Michael Fripp. Lynne will start us out with Stefa. Stefa was born in 1886 in Poland. She completed her studies at the University of Liège in Belgium in 1935. She visited Mandatory Palestine, that is now Israel. In 1938, she made the decision to settle in Israel, finding her home in Kibbutz Ein Harad. But with the outbreak of war in 1939, Stefa felt compelled to return to Poland.
In 1913, Stefa and the doctor opened an orphanage. Jewish orphanage. It was supposed to house 85 children, but it actually housed 110. A little strange family. Stefa like a mother, Janus Korczak, the doctor, like a father. Korczak, like a father, wasn't home all the time. He had other orphanages to manage. He had a radio show. He wrote books, gave seminars and lectures. And when World War I began, he volunteered to the Polish army, and he left Stefa alone to do everything with the children. And she did. In her black dress and black apron, Stefa, every morning, would make sure that all the children woke up on time and all the windows were open so that fresh air would come in. And all the children had to go, brush their teeth, wash their face, wear clean clothes, and go downstairs from the sleeping quarters to have breakfast. Then Stefa and two of the older children usually would stand at the entrance of the orphanage with big baskets, and in every basket, brown paper bags with sandwiches. Stefa knew exactly what each child liked in their sandwich, like a mother does. And the children would go off to school. And while the children were in school, Stefa made sure that all the stock was ready for the next day and that lunch would be cooked, the rooms clean. And when the children would come home after school, there was a system in the house, a system of points. Children had tasks. One had to clean off the dust from the great piano. One had to make sure that all the blankets were folded right on the beds. One had to make sure that all the tables were clean and the chairs. For every task that a child did, they got a point. And at the end of the week, the child that had the most points on their card would get a special treat, a postcard, a handwritten postcard from the doctor with words of encouragement. The kids, they used to wait every evening for the doctor to come. That was a big thing. To gather around the doctor, show the cards, tell them what they did that day. And Stefa would stand there, smiling, watching, taking care of the kids when they were sick, when a tooth fell out. Stefa and Korczak, like a mother and a father. And as Korczak used to say, without Stefa, there's no Korczak. And without Korczak, there's no Stefa.
In addition to asking you to share in our readings and our rituals tonight, we ask you to participate in our discussions. For a moment, let's move out of what is on the page and into our own hearts and our own minds. If you would like, you may close your eyes or go into a quiet place as you consider these questions. Who did you wait for when you had something exciting to tell? Honor them by sharing a story with us, please. Consider this for a moment, and if you wish, write your answer in the chat.
We must be watchful. When we ignore the rising shadows of hatred, they engulf us. We remember. Hatred spread across Germany like poison in water. The Germans afflicted us with cruel laws and humiliations. They did not care who we were or what we did. They did not care whether we were religious or secular, from the city or from the country, civilian or soldier, only that we were Jews. The Psalms reflect our anguish. Every day they make my words sorrowful. All their thoughts about me are for evil. They gather and hide. They watch my steps. They hope to capture my soul.
Trouble does not begin with fanfare, but it's storm clouds building in the distance. We remember. Every day they kept issuing laws against Jews. Today, for example, they took all our appliances away from us. The sewing machine, the radio, the telephone, the vacuum cleaner, the electric fryer, my camera, my bicycle. Augie said we should be happy that they're taking things, not people. Eva Heyman, Romania. In the overcrowded ghettos, we lamented. I feel as if I'm in a box. There is no air to breathe. Wherever you go, you encounter a gate that hems you in. I feel as if I've been robbed. My freedom is being robbed from me, my home. The familiar streets I love so much. I feel like I have been just cut off from all that is dear and precious to me. Yitshats Lithuania.
In a moment, we're going to return to Stefa's story, but I wanted to read a couple of these responses to the question from the chat. Susanna says, when I had my first real tell all about it, to share the details with my older sister, it was always her, until I got married years later. Now it's my husband. And my husband says, there's nothing quite so nourishing as to be able to share an exciting story with a spouse, which I love, of course. Lynn says, I used to wait to tell my dad, things. He always had the best reaction. And Judith says, her daughter. Let us now continue and return to Stefa's story.
Stefa moved to Ein Harod in Israel in 1938. She lived on the kibbutz. She loved it. She took all the same methods that herself and the doctor used to use in the orphanage and taught the people in the kibbutz how to do this in the children's houses. But on the 1st of September 1939, when the war broke out and Poland was invaded, Stefa gets a telegram from the doctor to Ein Harod saying, we're thinking about you. Stefa can't stand the thought that the children are alone there, only with the doctor, who might, of course, go to the Polish military again, like he did in the First War, so Stefa goes back. Of course, this war was a bit different, and the doctor couldn't go into the army. And within a few months, there's talk about all the Jews being put into a ghetto. The doctor gets an extension. He has such a fight with the people in the Gestapo. That's the doctor. He fights for what's right. But he gets an extension because to pack up 110 children and the whole orphanage and move from our beautiful home here in Kochmalna Street, that's a lot. But the month goes by quickly and it's time to go. So Stefa gets all the children in their Sunday best with an armband, like all the Jews have to wear. And every child has a backpack filled with their personal belongings. And all the other belongings are schlepped as well. The piano, of course, couldn't come with them. And they go into the ghetto, into the house that the Judenrat provides, the orphanage. The doctor gets very busy with the children immediately because once the war began and the children couldn't go to school, the doctor opened a school within the orphanage. So Stefa, the doctor, and a few of the older children, they were teaching the kids. And the same happened right there in the ghetto, in the new orphanage. And everything stayed the same, only with less space and no grand piano. But the kids studied, and they woke up every morning and brushed their teeth and washed their face and got dressed and went to school within the orphanage. Life continued.
If you have potato skins, take one and dip it into the salt water. These potato skins remind us that in the deprivation of the ghetto, we ate whatever we could find. The salt water into which we dip them recalls our tears. Recite with me. We dip to remember our starvation, evoking the salt of our tears and the hardships we endured. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha-adamah.
Raise your tea. We remember. Even in the ghetto, we celebrated Shabbat. We found, however, that wine for Kiddush was often impossible to get. The rabbis ruled that sweet tea could be substituted. Let us say together, we drink this tea in memory of the Kiddush wine we could not have.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהכל נחיה בדברו. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, by whose word everything comes into being.
If you have the book, we're going to be skipping around a little, as I said before. So if you have the book, please go to page 12 now. We remember. Despite our enemies' eagerness to strip us of our Judaism and of our humanity, we continue to educate our children, to celebrate our holidays, to love and help each other. Although prayer was forbidden, we prayed in secret communities and within the secret places in our hearts. Our faith was the one thing they could not take from us. Rivka Wagner, Poland. Hidden between the bunks, we whispered the familiar words of the Friday evening prayers and found tranquility. I discovered for the first time in my life the real power and value of prayer and faith in God. I could feel my words shattering the iron gates and the high-powered fences, going past the hundreds of guards, dugouts, watchtowers, out into the open, reaching towards heaven. Here I knew was a way of escape and a source of strength and a means of survival of which no power on earth could deprive me. Simcha Ursendorf, Czechoslovakia. In the ghetto, a young boy defied the bitterness.
From tomorrow on, I shall be sad. From tomorrow on, today, I will be happy. What's the use of sadness? Tell me that. Because the evil winds begin to blow, why should I grieve for tomorrow today? No, today I will be glad. And every day, no matter how bitter it be, I will say, from tomorrow on, I shall be sad, not today. Motto, a child in the ghetto.
Many have tried to destroy us. Pharaoh, Amalek, Haman, Caesar, the Inquisition, the Nazis. None have succeeded. In the Torah, we are commanded, choose life so that you and your children shall live. Read with me. As long as that secret power is concealed within us, we shall not yield to despair. As we fight physical, mental, and spiritual battles, we cry out the generations-old refrain, L'chaim, to life. We continue to live our Judaism and not let the evil destroy our faith in God or in humanity.
We continue our story with Michael and Korczak. Janus Korczak was a well-known educator, author, and radio show host, famous for his work promoting the rights of children. With Stefa, he ran a home for orphans in Warsaw.
They stole our potatoes. Not one or two, but but all of them. It is bad enough that they're making Stefa and me move our home for the orphans into the ghetto. But stealing from the children? Stefa and I packed what we needed for a life of dignity for the children in the ghetto. Pictures, toys, books, pots of flowers, and enough potatoes to feed the children for the winter. Yesterday, Stefa and I lined the children up in twos, and we paraded through Warsaw to the ghetto. But the guard at the gate took the whole wagon of potatoes. Now, I promised that guard that I would report him to his superiors. He told me to go see the Gestapo. So that's what I'm doing. I walked into Gestapo headquarters and I'm waiting for the commandant. We'd lived under German rule before, for a while during the Great War. No one wants to hurt children. The Germans are reasonable people. I think. This office is different. There's that desk with neat papers in exact rows and a glass front bookshelf with no papers, no books, holding instead a bullwhip and a blunt hammer. But I am Janus Korczak, the famous old doctor. People seem to like me from my radio shows, from the lectures, from the books, from the work with children. I'll make it work. I have to. We need the food. Here's the officer. I hand him my papers. Sir, I am Janus Korczak, the head of the Home of the Orphans in the ghetto. Your soldiers stole our wagon of potatoes. It is essential that the confiscated food be returned to the children immediately. He compliments me on my excellent German and asks me why I'm so concerned about Jewish orphans. And then he looks at my papers. It says here that you're Jewish. Where is your armband? Don't you know that you're breaking the law? I refuse to wear a Jewish star. There are human laws which are transitory, and there are higher laws which are eternal. I learned that day that the Nazis do not care about higher laws. I was beaten. I starved in prison for months. I heard gunshots from the prison yard every day. I told stories to the prisoners every night. I knew Stefa was also telling stories to the children every night at the home. It is a relief to know Stefa could handle the home. She could handle everything, anything. This continued until one of my admirers on the outside was able to bribe my release. I limped home to the children, to Stefa. We never got that wagon of potatoes, but we'll make do. We always have. Because as long as we can take care of all our children, so long as we can protect our little ones, then we still have hope as a people. And as long as we have hope, then I'm willing to keep going.
You have fruit with pits. Take one and join me. Let us say together, these fruits, with their unbreakable inner core, represent our inner strength. They are a tangible token of the power to resist. We eat these fruits so that we may gain courage from our ancestors to find our own inner strength in difficult times.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם,
Borei pri ha'et. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the tree.
If you have the book, please join us on page 10. Words fail as we begin to speak of the darkest times. We remember. The Germans, with willing partners, murdered us in staggering numbers. Mass graves fill the forests of Europe. My heart shudders within me, and the terrors of death have descended upon me. Fear and trembling penetrate me, and I am enveloped with horror. We were murdered without mercy, mothers and fathers, children and grandparents. We were murdered simply for being Jews. The Germans forced us from our homes into ghettos, into slave labor camps, and into death chambers.
In our blind ignorance, we thought that deportation was a better solution. Fools that we were, we thought the ghetto was the ultimate in abysmal blackness. We did not know that from here on, we would be severed and cut off from everything that was familiar and dear to us. We did not know that from that train ride on, we would be robbed of our whole world. Sarah Silver, Poland.
Let us once again return to Stefa's story.
Since July, Jews have been round up in the ghetto, sent away on trains. The notice came also to all 3 orphanages in Warsaw Ghetto. Stefa and Korczak knew that when the day comes, they'll have to get the children to the Umschlagplatz, the gathering place, and from there to the trains to the east, whatever that is. And that day comes on the 2nd of August. So, again, Korczak, Stefa, and the children in their Sunday best, all clean and ready, in 2 rows, march from the orphanage to the Umschlagplatz in a very orderly line. The other 2 orphanages also march there. And when they get to the Umschlagplatz, the children sit together in those 2 lines, waiting. They waited for quite a while. And then Stefa, the children, and the doctor go on to the train that goes to Treblinka. Stefa, Korczak, and 180 of their children die in Treblinka on the 5th of August.
Please fill your wine glass, but do not drink. We grieve as we remember the vibrant Jewish and Romana communities that were destroyed. If you have the names of the community that was lost, please share it in the chat with us. A cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Jeremiah 31. Read with me now. We spill drops of wine to remember the blood that was spilled, the whole communities that were destroyed. These losses diminish our lives as we diminish the wine in our glasses. Let these few represent for us the many. For each of these communities, we will dip our fingers and spill a drop of wine. Repeat after me. Warsaw,
Warsaw,
Vienna,
Vienna,
Yeah.
Salonika,
Salonika,
Riga,
Riga,
Kiev,
Kyiv,
Kyiv,
Sarajevo,
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 Kelm,
Chelm,
Helm,
Kielce,
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 Wiesbaden,
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 Prague,
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 and in the chat,
Tarnov, Tomashov, Vilna, Budapest, Benghazi, Lvov, Kovno, Bredejev Community, Slovakia, Presov, Slovakia.
I can read that.
Kuzitz. Yes, please, Susanna.
Yeah. Bardiev community, Slovakia, Prešov, Slovakia, Košice or Kašov, Slovakia, Mikulov, Czech Republic, and Sabinov, Slovakia.
Thank
Debrecen,
you. Debrecen.
that's Hungary.
Thank you.
thank you.
In the rising of the sun, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind, we remember them. In the warmth of summer, in the chill of winter, we remember them. When we are weary and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
We pause in terror before the human deed, the cloud of annihilation, the concentration of death, the cruel, casual way of each to each. But in the stillness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light.
If you are following along in the book, please join us on page 16. We remember. Liberation eventually came. As the armies of the world moved towards vanquishing evil, they discovered a hell that left them stunned. As recorded in Daniel, it will be a time of trouble as has never been before. At that time, your people will be rescued. Let us say together, we must remember the affliction of our people, so that no people shall ever suffer such a fate again. We are commanded to provide comfort wherever there is suffering, for you know the heart of the stranger, since you were strangers in the land of Egypt. How do we ensure that no one ever suffers such a fate again? We resolve to strengthen the world through our commitment to justice. We say, Le'olam lo od, never again. Let us read responsively.
Never again shall we ignore the gathering shadows of hate.
Le'olam lo
Le'olam la'od.
Never again shall we stay silent at the preachings of malice.
Le'olam lo od.
Never again shall we excuse those who hate.
Le'olam lo od. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael v'gevuram. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who girds Israel with strength. Never again shall we stand and watch while people are mistreated.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we allow groups of people to be separated and made unequal.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we watch a community plant the seeds of hate and do nothing.
Leolam lo od. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our Lord, ruler of the universe, who frees the captives. Never again shall we think we are helpless to stop the coming of evil.
Le'olam lo od.
Never again shall we forget our own strength.
Le'olam lo od.
Never again shall we allow hatred to go unanswered.
Le'olam lo od. Say this with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'yirdof tzedek. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with your commandments and commands us to pursue justice.
Questions stand stark before us. How do we move forward when we have lost so much? Let us say together, we walk with a hole in our hearts and weight in our footsteps, but we walk forward. We are reduced, but we refuse to remain broken.
Wir kennen mal als du gehst den letzten Weg, Gott schimmeln bleien, verstehen, bleuer Tag. Willkommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Es wird abheugt und unser Trott, wir senden da. You must not say that you now walk the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here.
We remember when the world counted their dead, we counted our living. Those who lived gave us strength to love again. In a displaced persons camp near Munich, Frania Bratt married Boris Blum 5 months after liberation. Their hand-printed wedding invitations listed both their hometowns and the death camps they had survived. Their daughter, Toa, was one of many babies born in the camp that year. We did not know what would come next. We only knew that we could not go back to the life we once lived.
Let us return once more to and hear about how she and Korczak are remembered.
When the memorials in Treblinka were set up, there is one stone that has the name Janus Korczak. Underneath the very big letters, it says that Korczak and the children died on the 5th of August. Stefa's not mentioned. Many statues of Korczak with children are scattered around in Israel, in Poland, all over the world. And for many years, it was only Korczak and the children. In the great cemetery in Warsaw, next to Korczak's parents, there is a headstone for Korczak, but there was no headstone for Stefa. After the Iron Curtain was lifted, people started researching within the Polish archives. And a group of letters sent from Encharod to Poland were found in the Jewish archive. And suddenly Stefa came back to life. So in the cemetery today in Warsaw, there is a beautiful marble headstone for Stefa. Unfortunately, in Treblinka, there is no mention of Stefa. But now we know, now you know, that Stefa existed. And me personally, I am very obsessed with Stefa. And anytime I have the chance to tell the story of this amazing woman, I do. And today, many people who visit in Yad Vashem stand next to the memorial for Janus Korczak. It's a big statue with Korczak's head and many children and two big arms. And any group who has ever studied with me says, but where's Stefa? So next time you see a statue of Janus Korczak, ask. Ask so that you can tell who Stefa was.
We remember. As we emerged from the rubble of our lives, we were united by an ancient hope. Hatikva, the expression of that hope, is a song that has bolstered us in times of joy and in times of sorrow. It was the clarion call when we dreamed of a better life, a life of freedom and a land of our own, even while trapped in slavery. If you wish, please rise for the singing of the Hatikva.
עוד בלבב פנימה, נפש יהודי הומייה, ושפתי מזרח קדימה, עין ציון צופיה. עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו, התקווה שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים.
As long as the Jewish spirit is yearning deep in the heart, with eyes turned toward the east, looking toward Zion, then our hope, the 2,000-year-old hope, will not be lost. To be a free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. If you rose, please be seated.
With hope in our hearts, we step out of the darkness and into the light of renewed life. Violet, off of mute.
Thank you. Let us once again move out of what is on the page and into our own hearts and our own minds. If you want, you may close your eyes or go into a quiet place as you consider this question. What do you hope for? How might you make that hope a reality? Consider this for a moment, and then if you wish, write that in the chat. And someone has written, for these stories to not be forgotten, for people to understand what these stories mean to us and to the world. Though my natural hope is for peace, this evening my hope is that you all will tell the story of Stefa and the doctor to remember her. And my hope is that we can take these stories to the children and that the children will take these stories with them. By raising good people with a strong sense of justice, by remembering these stories, their stories, all of our stories, by finding ways to teach, create, and remember. Thank you, Susanna.
Let us say together, as we were all at Sinai, so are we all the children of survivors. As it is written in the Torah, and you shall tell the children on that day, it is because of what Adonai did for me when I went free from Egypt. We say the Shekianu to give thanks that we have made it to this time and this place. We say it here because although much was lost, we survived, and that survival is worth celebrating.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has supported us, protected us, and brought us to this very moment.
Our joy in our survival is tempered by the tears for those we lost. They left no footprints, no fingerprints. All we have is memory. Let us say together, In this moment, we acknowledged that they lived. As long as we remember them, they are with us.
As we remember our dead, we pause to remember Stefa, Korczak, and their children, with a poem written at the time by Władysław Szlengel, a poet from the Warsaw Ghetto. Schlegel wrote this poem as he witnessed the roundup of Korczak's Stefa and children, as well as the children teachers from 2 other orphanages. Schlegel himself died in the Warsaw Ghetto uprising a few months later.
Today, I saw Janus Korczak as he walked with his children on their last procession. And the children were cleanly dressed as though on a Saturday walk in the park. They wore clean and festive aprons, but today they could dirty them. The home of the orphans marched across the town in 5s through blocks of haunted people. The city had a frightened face, like a torn and naked giant. Empty windows on the streets watched like skeletal orbits of the dead. Sometimes it screamed like a lost bird, a death knell rung with no reason, while indifferent men rode in hand-driven carts, the masters of the situation. Sometimes there's a patter and a rustle of silence, a quick conversation in passing. And yet I stood horrified and mute in prayer in the church on Lesno Street. And here come the children, 5 by 5, peacefully. No one pulling anyone out of line. These are orphans. No one was offering bribes into the hands of blue policemen. There was no interventions on the Umschlagplatz. No one whispering into the ear of the Schmerling. No one collected family watches for the drunk Latvians. Janus Korczak walked straight in front with a bare head, with eyes without fear. A child was holding it in his pocket. He held 2 little ones in his arms. Someone flew in with paper in their hand, explaining and shouting nervously, "You can come back. Here is a paper from Brandt." And Korczak silently shook his head, refusing. He did not try to explain to those who came with the German offers. How would one put into those soulless heads what it means to leave a child all alone in such an hour? For many years, he had toiled in this persistent journey to place a ball of sunshine in a child's hand. How could he leave them frightened now? He'll go with them onward to the end. I'm certain he thought about King Matthias and that fate had spared him a similar fortune. King Matt, on the island among the wild ones, would also have done the same. The children went into the trains as though on a trip on Lag BaOmer. And that little one with the bold face felt completely like a Hashomer. I thought in this so ordinary moment, after all, this means nothing to Europe, that he makes history for us right now, writing the most beautiful of pages. That in this cursed war, in the endless humiliation, in the helpless chaos, in that fight for life, for everything, in the depth of corruption and betrayal, on that front, where the death does not glorify, in this nightmarish dance in the night, He was the only proud soldier. Janus Korczak, the orphan's caretaker.
The survivors entreat us. I ask you to not forget the dead. I ask you to build a monument in our names, a monument reaching up to the heavens and the entire world might see, not a monument of marble or stone, but one of good deeds. I believe with full and perfect faith that only such a monument can promise a better future. Only thus can we be sure that the evil that overturned the world and turned our lives into hell will never return. Danya Rosen, Ukraine. Let us remember them as they lived. As we contemplate their pictures, we mourn the stories cut short, the hopes and dreams lost. We speak their names so they will not be forgotten. Some people in these photos are not labeled with names, reminding us that although some stories are lost, we still acknowledge the people who lived them. For those, we simply say unknown. If you have names of the lost you would like us to read, please put them in the chat. If you wish, you may rise with us for the reading of the names.
Gisi Fleischman, Rudy Salmon, unknown. Zipporah Picker, Shraga Picker.
Stefania Wylcynska, Janus Korczak, Tima Schneiderman, Zunia Jaskowitz, Hanna Jaskowitz.
And from the chat, Yeshua, Riva, David, Asia, Magdalena, Duskia, Altman.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la la.
If you wish, you may remain standing or stand for Kaddish. If you have a yahrzeit candle, please light it now. I have these special yahrzeit candles. They come from a group called Our 6 Million. I don't actually know if they still exist, but they have the names of people who died in the Holocaust on them. This one happens to say Janus Korczak, 1878 to 1942, Warsaw, Poland, son of Josef and Cecilia, educator, children's author, and pediatrician, perished in Treblinka camp in Poland. We did not die alone. We say Kaddish not only for our own dead, but also for the many who were targeted alongside us. Romani people, gay people, those with disabilities, and voices of resistance, all murdered in the great silencing of diversity, speech, and opposition. We feel their loss as we gather and mourn our own immeasurable losses. Please join us in the reading of the Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, בעלמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביום חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח, יתפואר ויתרומם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמד קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, החיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ואמרו 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 אמן. ואמרו 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 amen. May the one who brings peace round the world bring peace to us all and all who mourn. Let us say amen.
We remember. In the starving times we dreamed of cooking in the kitchens of home. In the aftermath, when we contemplated all that had been lost, it was the recipe to those lost kitchens that comforted us. Violet, you're on mute again.
We reached out and touched nothing, so we turned inward instead. Our memories kept us moving forward, our memories of home and of bread. We cannot return home, it's rubble. We cannot hold family, they're gone. But today we will have dumplings, and tomorrow we will live on.
From the abundance of our bright lives to the sharing of scraps in the darkest times, communities rise with the sharing of bread. Our ancestors understood this. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are needy come and celebrate with us. Let us take up that call to share our friendship with all who are in need. Let us say together, as we break bread together, we give thanks for our survival, acknowledging that we are no more deserving than those who did not survive. We celebrate the Jewish community that continues to thrive and the community that we've created here together today.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
We awaken to a world where human beings have done unfathomable evil to each other, to us. What do we do now? We weep and ask, how do we go on living after such a loss?
We are commanded to choose life. We remember that our ancestors held on to love and life and hope, even in the harshest time. We know that the thread of Jewish life is strong. As survivors say, grandchildren are the best revenge.
Overwhelmed by the enormity of the story, we whisper, I do not want to hear anymore.
We draw inward to comfort one another, and yet we know ignoring evil only allows it to grow. Despite our unease, we choose not to be blind. We choose awareness. because we recognize that evil does not need our help, just our indifference. Hans Lauenbach, Germany.
We cry out in anger, how could this happen? Where was the world?
We remember not only the evil of those who hurt us, but also the goodness of those who helped us. We resolve to turn our anger into a passionate drive to repair the world.
Awakened, we inquire, how does hatred grow? Can we stop it?
Hatred grows when we ignore it, when we allow hurtful behavior to go unchallenged. We will not let evil hide in the shadows. We resolve to shine a spotlight on hate and make it clear that such behavior is not acceptable. We will be vocal torchbearers of love.
Eli, Eli, שלא ייגמר לעולם. כל והים רישוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם. החול והים רישוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם. Eli, my God, I pray that these never end. Sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heaven, the prayers of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heaven, the prayer of the heart.
Please read responsively with us. I pray for courage and for strength. When I remember the evils in the past, the innocent people tortured and murdered, I am almost afraid to make myself remember, but I am even more afraid to forget.
I ask for wisdom that I might mourn and not be consumed by hatred, that I might remember and yet not lose hope.
I must face evil, and so doing, reaffirm my faith in future good. I cannot erase yesterday's pains, but I can vow that they will not have suffered in vain.
And so I pray for those who were given death, I choose life for me and for generations yet to come.
For those who found courage to stand against evil, often at the cost of their lives, I vow to carry on their struggle.
I must teach myself and others to learn from hatred that people must love, to learn from evil, to live for good.
We recognize that despite our best efforts, there is still evil in the world. People are still persecuted for who they are. Anger and hatred continue to seep into our communities.
Nonetheless, we proclaim that there is hope. We can make a difference. We can help.
Without justice, there can be no peace. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. Martin Luther King.
To stem the flow of hatred, we must work for justice. For as Isaiah tells us, the work of justice shall be peace.
We cannot change our past, but we can build our future.
Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love chesed now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Rami Shapiro.
We must remember that peace and justice are not gifts from God. They are gifts to each other. Elie Wiesel, Hungary.
And so we say together with me, we pledge ourselves to work for peace and justice throughout the world. Tzedek, tzedek, nirdof. Justice, justice, we shall pursue.
יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה.
Our God and God of our ancestors, God of our fathers and our mothers, of our living and our dead, hold this people in your hand. Keep us safe and help us find the sacred well of justice that dwells within each of us. Help us to create a just world for all people in all places. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our readers and our storytellers, Lynne Feldman, Michael Fripp, Erica Guerra, and Violet Neff-Helms. Thank you to Cantor Karen Webber for providing the music. And thank you all for participating. Please join us if you have the chance on Thursday, the 9th, this coming Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern for a special program of history and storytelling led by our own Lynne Feldman, who you have heard tonight. I'm putting the link for that in the chat. And as we finish our story, our journey tonight, we'd like to ask you to consider one final question. Why is it important to you personally, to commemorate and learn stories of the Holocaust? Consider this for a moment, and then if you wish, write your answers in the chat. Or since this is the end of our program, and I'm going to take the slides down in a moment, you can raise your electronic hand and we'll open the floor to everyone's voices. So I'm going to put this on gallery now. And thank you all for joining us. And if you have thoughts about this, we'd love to hear them. Bring your voices into this conversation.
Deborah, did you want to stop the chat? I mean, the recording at this point? Just a curious.
Actually, I'm gonna record this conversation just so we have it. Zana says 6 million is overwhelming. One story carries power, personality, dreams, and an understanding of the enormity of the loss. Thank you, Susanna. That is exactly why we want to do this. Judy, Jill, I know that I wouldn't want people to forget me, so I do my best not to forget them. That's beautiful. Yes, Judy, hopefully it will be online soon. I'm a little behind on that, but it will be online. Judith, telling their stories brings me to life. As I tell a story, I get to be part of the never-ending creation and creativity. Just like saying one person saves the world, if I can reach one person, I hope to help it never happen again. Yes, yes. And we have recently had the opportunity to teach this to some non-Jewish Asian Christians, and they, here in Singapore, and they found that these stories gave them context for what happens in the world, what's happening in the world. And that I thought was really, really interesting and really important. It keeps me from getting numb to all the hatred and violence in the world. Yes, yes, that also. Deborah, I see you are unmuted. Did you have a comment?
I guess my personal feeling is that there but for fortune I go I could have been there. I was born around the time that my grandparents were murdered. But my current thought is that I wish the students, maybe the Hillel students, maybe the Jewish students, maybe the non-Jewish students, could be part of this conversation.
Yes, that is the hope, is that all of them will in some way be part of the conversation. And I hope that many people went to some sort of a Yom HaShoah program tonight, today, tomorrow. Erica says, as a Jew by choice and of color, it matters to me to be a good and true witness in unexpected places. Yes, yes. And as a Jew living in Asia, I feel the same, that to be a witness in unexpected places. Any other thoughts? Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for participating in our conversation and in our ritual. This is our 5th annual Light from the Darkness ritual, which is very exciting. And we hope to see you on Thursday or at a future program that we have. And for those of you who have not, many of you have been through our storytelling class. For those of you who have not, please join us in one of those as well, and be part of this journey and this effort, as you are by being here. Where can the text be? Oh, Michelle, this is Light from the Darkness. This is this is the book. You can get it on Amazon, or from Berman House. But if you hang on just a second, I will get you the Amazon link.
And we will take this opportunity to thank Deborah and Violet for creating the ritual and the book.
I would like to thank you, Lynn and Michael and Deborah, for breathing life into these words.
So you can get it
And
from
Karen.
Amazon, or you can
And
get it
Karen.
from Berman House.
Mm.
And you can get it both on paper and electronically, for Kindle at least. So yes, and there's an interfaith version of it that some of you might have experienced in January, which is in pre-publication, and so will be available this time next year. Actually, by January next year. So good night, and thank you for coming.